One way of looking at it is you can say that when we sit to meditate, we're seeking the recognition that the wave is the ocean. When we sit and meditate, we're seeking the recognition that the wave is the ocean. You follow me? That you, the person, the limited personality that you have considered yourself to be, is actually awareness itself that is not personal. That's the wave is the ocean, right? So you're meditating and you're seeking the recognition that the wave is the ocean, that you're not who you thought you were, that the wave is the ocean, that the wave may appear for a period of time to separate itself from the ocean, but then it falls back into the ocean. It was never anything but the ocean. It was just water. In the same way, we can talk about the process of waking up and recognizing our true nature as it's similar to saying that who you are, who you've considered yourself to be is ice in water. And as you meditate, the ice melts. And then there's just water. So it goes to a non-dual experience. And so when we meditate, we're practicing recognizing that the wave is the ocean. And having recognized that, it also becomes apparent that the ocean is the wave. Do you see? There's just one, not two. The ocean is the wave, and the wave is the ocean. You may appear as a wave, and you may be in the form of the wave, and you may have the activity of the wave, right? But you were never really the wave. The wave is just a temporary way of recognizing the manifestation of the ocean in a particular way. So when you say, but also there's another part to this that I understand what you're saying, that it is not the case that you will always be the ice, if you're using the ice and the water metaphor. It is not the case that you will always be the ice. What changes through meditation is that you recognize yourself to appear as ice, not that you are that. And because you recognize it as an appearance, it no longer splits you. It no longer splits you because the appearance is an appearance. It's not something different than the water. It's just an appearance. The form appears different. That's the ice. The form appears different, but in the essence, it's the same as the water. And so when you practice, you through practice, the ice is melting. Right? So you don't have to be the ice anymore. In the world, you may have to appear in that form again, but you're not being the ice now. That's what happens through the practice of meditation, if that's what happens. If that doesn't happen, and so see, when you're practicing meditation, part of what you're practicing is refining the practice so you can be as skillful as possible to get the ice to melt, right? And if you're unskillful or you're not really practicing being the awareness and you're getting lost in thought, or you're still relating to the practice as a person, until and if that comes to its conclusion, you will remain the ice, right? Because that's the ice saying that I'm going to be like the water. That's the person saying I'm going to be the awareness. But the whole point here is to get to a non-dual experience. And to get to a non-dual experience, what has to be different? If non-duality is the truth, non-duality is a fact, okay? So to get to the truth, to get to the fact, to get to the reality of what's so, what has to be different from the way it is now? And so the first step is to recognize that you're not the person. Right? Because remember, I've said this to you before, if you want to be skillful, you're not trying to become the awareness, you already are. You're not trying to see the awareness, you can't, right? You can't do any of that, right? But you can see yourself being what you're not, that's being the person. You can see what you're not as being the person. That's the first step. Then the second step is to realize that the person is the awareness. That's why I mentioned the Enso, right? The Enso, right? That circle that you see in Zen all the time, right? You begin as the person, you seek to become the awareness, you realize you are the awareness, and then the awareness realizes it is a person. And so you end up going back to where you started again. Except that when you get back to where you started, it's not the same place. That you're already home. It's good news. You can't see, the only one that would be upset that you can't see who you are is who you think you are, right? That's the one who wants to see who you are. That's how you recognized everything else. Oh, but this is the one thing that you can't do that with, right? But that doesn't mean that who you think you are is going to give up that easily, right? Because you have been so persistent in your repetition of identifying yourself that way. The trance is so complete that even as you sit here and as you come to class, at least in the beginning, even as you sit here and as you come to class, you want to think of yourself as the awareness, right? But that wouldn't be the awareness. That'd be you thinking of yourself as the awareness, right? That'd be just who you think you are becoming spiritual, a spiritual person. That's a contradiction in terms, right? A spiritual person, that's a contradiction in terms. Because that which is spiritual does not exist in form, and a person does. So it's a contradiction in terms, right? Where did you get who you are? Where did you get didn't you ever notice in your life that you meet somebody you really like, and then you find yourself using the words they use, right? You find yourself somehow taking on the characteristics that they have, right? Back in the day, I did the S training, and I was really involved in that stuff for many years, to the point where I was in the process of being trained to lead the thing. And the guy who invented it, Werner Erhard, he had a very specific way of being when he was leading the training. A very specific way of being and a very specific language that he invented that would be particularly useful in communicating about this transformational technology that he invented. And it's been many, many years since he has led that training, but there are still people around that were trained by him. And when you listen to them talk, you can see them imitating him. They fell into that way of being that he generated, and it has a kind of fixed way about it. So really, and there's nothing about any of this that's wrong, because like I said earlier, where are you going to get who you be? Where are you going to get it from? You know what I mean? Once you realize that you're learning it, right? Then you get better at learning it. You pick better people to act like, right? Or maybe not, maybe you admire people who are nefarious. It happened when I was working in prisons. I literally offered them a different model. I said, here's a model that works. Because a lot of the guys I was talking to, most of the guys I was talking to, had been in and out of prison many times. So they're a perfect example of repeating the same patterns of behavior. and justifying the fact that it didn't work. And so that's one of the reasons why they say, I mean, even in Zen and even in these spiritual teachings, they say hang around with like-minded people, right? Hang around with people that get this. Hang around with people that are aspiring to have this realization. Hang around with people who are modeling this. Hang around with people who are demonstrating the kind of commitment it takes to deal with the challenges you have to face in order to be awake. Hang around with those people. That as a teacher teaching the class, I had to cater to the listening that was there. Do you know what I mean? So you had to be entertained. You had to like what I was saying. I had to get you interested in this, right? So that's how you talk to children, right? But then at some point, after you've been around this for a while and you've got your feet wet a little and you've practiced a little meditation and you've indulged in some of these teachings and you're kind of seeing the light a little bit here, well, then it's time to move on. We don't keep behaving the same way. This isn't kindergarten anymore, right? So at some point, you have to get to a place where you're giving the teacher or the guide the license not to have to kiss your ass anymore. Do you know what I mean? Not to have to worry about what you like. Not to have to worry about whether you're going to get pissed off because you don't like being confronted or you don't like hearing the truth about yourself, right? Recently, I was making a note today to myself that the last 3 people that showed up for my private practice didn't come for psychological therapy. They didn't come for psychotherapy. And I thought to myself, okay, this is working. They came for spiritual guidance. They had read my book. And they came for spiritual guidance. They said, I don't want psychotherapy. I want to talk about what you were talking about in the book. And in a way, without them necessarily appreciating it or seeing it that way, that's just the highest form of psychotherapy is all it is. Isn't it? It's the highest form of psychotherapy, because if psychotherapy is about not continuing to suffer psychologically and emotionally, well, what could be more effective in ending psychological or emotional suffering than waking up to the truth? Because it is the case, and this is where non-duality comes in. Remember, a while back I said to you, what would have to be different, for you to experience non-duality? We could say that what you're practicing is a non-dual experience when you're practicing meditation. Well, what would have to be different to experience non-duality? Or another way of saying the same thing is, what has things appear to be dualistic? What is creating the dualistic view? What's creating duality? How you act in society as a separate person. Once you're a separate person, now there's 2, me and not me. That's duality, right? So what would have to happen for you to experience duality? That me, that had there be me and not me, is seen not to be real. It's seen not to exist. See, when you're practicing meditation, if you're practicing it correctly, you're sitting there being aware, and if you're sitting there being aware, and by sitting there being aware, there's awareness, and there's awareness of what's happening. If you keep practicing that, eventually the brain will pick up on the idea that that's all that's happening. Eventually the brain will pick up on the idea there's awareness in what's happening. There's no you there. Is there? Well, yeah, but that doesn't, so a thought doesn't in and of itself mean anything. It's just an electrical, thing in the brain. It's just a neural pattern. The idea that you think something doesn't in and of itself mean anything. That's the point. And you've been hog-tied to that. What are you saying? You can be the person knowing that the person is the self. But more importantly, you can be the person knowing that the person is the self, but no longer limited by the way the person is when they think that that's all there is. Now what's available to play through the personality which is infinite, which is available to play through the personality, allows the personality to become a spiritual entity that is now in the world, knowing how things play in the world, right? But being in the world to express the truth, being in the world to be what it is as unconditional love. So you may be going along with things, right? But who you're being and what you're up to is to actually love, to be acceptance, to be free, and to express that in the world so that other people catch on. You know, it's like a tuning fork. You know what I mean? If you hit a tuning fork, other tuning forks come into vibration with it. They resonate with it, you know? So there is an aspect of this that a realized person, and the person doesn't have to be absolutely realized. If you're realized enough that you're more that than you are not that, then the vibration that you are energetically is different. It's more refined. It's subtler. It's not as gross. It's not based in material reality. It's based in spirituality. It's based in consciousness, not the material world, right? So it's a finer reality. It's a finer source. And so your vibration is different. And because your vibration is different, when you're around other people, their vibration is attracted to that vibration, because that vibration is it's finer tuned. It's not as it's more like space rather than something in the space. That's what I mean by finer vibration, right? It's more like space than something in space. And if somebody's realized like that, to be around them can't not make a difference. See, that's the thing. I've heard people in here talk about this in terms of the people in your life, your children, your spouse, your parents, your siblings, right? That's where I hear all the complaining about. In psychotherapy too, right? In psychotherapy, that's primarily where the complaining is. Family and spouse, and then second to that, work, is where the complaining is. Right? But if who you're being is realized and your vibration's different, then that's how it's like, I've heard you say that your daughter gets nuts and you try and talk to her, but it doesn't make any difference, right? That's unskillful. That's unskillful. Because you have to understand something. This is the dilemma that I'm in as a psychotherapist. You have to understand something. To tell somebody that who they're being and what they're doing doesn't work and it's wrong, right, is heard like they're wrong, like they're being made wrong. But when you are around them and your vibration is different and you're not playing the petty game, you're not feeding into that. You're with them when they are, but you're not involved. Do you understand? You'll listen to them complain, but you're not agreeing with anything. You're just being there with them, right? That'll make a difference, because in our world, in the society we live in, friendship for the most part is based on agreement, right? You're my friend because I can talk to you. You're my friend because we agree on things, right? But as soon as I tell you my problems and you confront me and tell me, well, that's only that way because of the way you are, oh, that's not my friend anymore. They turned on me. What is a real friend? Who are the people that you choose to spend time with and create friendship and intimacy with? And why are you making that choice? One of the things that, and maybe it's me, I don't think so, but one of the things that you discover if you stay on the path of self-realization is there ain't going to be too many people around that want to play that game. There aren't going to be too many people around that are interested in that kind of thing. I mean, I look at my own family, and what could you want more, right? What could you want more than to be able to make a difference with your kids, right? Or with people you love, right? Or if we're all going to get mature here, if we're going to get beyond being nice about it all, right, then you're going to give me permission not to sit there and listen to you be stupid. So that's when I know I'm in, that's when I know when we're in a more advanced form of psychotherapy, when somebody's talking and I can stop them and say, wait a minute, what are you, and the person can hear it. Do you understand? The person can hear it. Sometimes I mistake where they are and they can't hear it and they attack me back. Or go away, take their marbles and go home. I'll show you, I won't play anymore. I'll show you, I won't come here and pay you to help me anymore. It's so crazy. Yeah, I came up with the title for my next book. It's perfect. Took a while, but it finally hit me. My first book was Enlightenment Made Easy, right? The second book was Dying to Live. The third book is going to be Enlightenment for Crazy People. Enlightenment for Crazy People. And the reason it's going to be that is because anybody who begins the process of waking up is crazy. Anybody. People generally are crazy, right? Being a person is crazy. So when I say crazy people, I'm not specifying somebody who's particularly mentally ill. I'm talking about almost all of humanity. So then it gives me the opportunity to talk about how crazy what people consider normal is. Enlightenment for crazy people. Because I have to talk, if I'm going to help you to wake up and be enlightened, I have to talk to a crazy person for a while, don't I?
I don't know if it's going to help your book sale.
Oh, it will. It will. It will. It will. And one of the reasons that I came up with that title is I wanted a title that would appeal, that people would say, oh, that captures their attention. Because the truth be told, most people know that they're crazy. They're keeping it a secret, but they know. It's hard not to know that you're crazy when, you keep doing things that are obviously stupid. All right. This is going to get worse if I continue.